Hi, my name is Estela, and I have done the Camino de Santiago 3 times. And I'll share with you everything you need to know to get started planning for your Camino in less than 30 minutes. I am originally from Brazil, and I learned about the Camino through a Brazilian author called Paulo Coelho on his book, The Pilgrimage, over 25 years ago. At the time, I didn't even know if the Camino really existed or it was just fiction. So I moved on with my life. Until 2021, I started some research and learned a lot about the Camino that I didn't know. That turned out to be the beginning of the planning of my first Camino, which happened in 2022, followed by my second in 2023, and my most recent in 2025. After doing the Camino 3 times, you can imagine I talk a lot about the Camino. And most times when I talk to people, they say they would love to do it. It is in their bucket list, but they don't even know where to start. And that's exactly how I felt before my first Camino. So I thought, why not to consolidate everything I have learned during my 3 Caminos and share with people to help them decide if this is for them and hopefully inspire them to do this journey. So let's get started. What is really the Camino? The Camino is a network of routes in Europe that leads to the Santiago de Compostela Cathedral in Spain, where the remains of Saint James the Greater are said to be buried. Originally, it was a religious pilgrimage. Now, it's also a popular route among people searching for personal reflection, spiritual growth, adventure, community, or curiosity. What should you expect from the Camino? You're gonna go through charming little towns, through mountains, forests, trails that can be paved, cobblestone, or dirt, narrow alleys, and even mud if it rains. And believe me, it will rain. It rains a lot in that region. Is it challenging? Yes, it can be. But hundreds of thousands of people from many different countries and ages do it every year. So you can do it too. How long does it take? That will depend on what route you will choose, where you're going to start, how much time you have, and how much you can walk a day. Most people do an average of 20 to 25 kilometers a day. So it can take anywhere from 5 to 40 days. But it's important to say that there is no rules about the Camino or how long it should take. It's not a race. So you choose what works for you. The Camino has many routes and many starting points. These are the 5 most popular ones. But before I go through them, I need to explain a big misconception that a lot of people have, including myself, before I did my first one. The French Camino is with no doubt the most popular one. However, you don't need to do the whole French Camino, which is 780 kilometers. And let's be honest, most people don't have a whole month to do this, or even the financial means or energy. So you can do in stages. But if you want to get the Compostela, which I will explain what it is a little bit further, you must do at least 100 kilometers. And that's what the big majority of people do. So let's look at the most popular starting points. Sarria is the last 115 kilometers of the French Camino, and that's the most popular one. It takes 5 to 7 days to complete. Porto is the last 250 kilometers of the Portuguese Camino and can take from 10 to 15 days. Tui is also part of the Portuguese Camino, but only the last 117 kilometers. It also takes 5 to 7 days to complete. In fourth place, we have the whole French Camino, which is 708 kilometers, and it takes 30 to 35 days to complete. Lastly, we have the English Camino, starting in Ferrol, which takes 5 to 6 days, and it's 120 kilometers. This duration are only walking days, So you need to add an extra 2 days for arrival and departure. This is my itinerary from my first Camino starting in Sarria, which is the last 115 kilometers from the French Camino, and the most popular one, especially for people doing the Camino for the first time. I did it in 5 days, but in hindsight, I wish I had done it in 6, which is what most people do. So that's actually what I recommend for you. Here you can see where I started and ended each day, the average walked kilometers and durations. This duration is only the walking time, so you still need to add another couple of hours perhaps for eating, resting, using the restroom, taking pictures, etc. I usually don't like to stop and have a lunch every day because after lunch I feel a little bit tired and lazy. So it slows me down a lot. So sometimes I prefer to eat a sandwich while walking, and then I end up arriving at my destination that night a little bit earlier and can enjoy that town a little bit more. But a lot of people will even stop for a beer or a glass of wine in the middle of the day, or even multiple times a day. It's your journey, so you do as you wish. You can also see here my Apple Watch with the number of steps for each day. So my longest day, I think I had around 42,000 steps. How do you know where to go to get to Santiago de Compostela? Is there an app or a map? In fact, yes, there is an app and a map, but I don't think most people use it because you have a lot of signs that you can follow, so you don't need to download an app if your plan is to really disconnect. All you have to do is to follow the yellow arrows along the way. They will be everywhere, especially in this area, starting point. It's important to pay attention, especially when you are crossing the small towns, because the signs can be anywhere from some standing poles to the ground, a wall, or even the windows of some stores. You can also pay attention at people going ahead of you, but don't rely completely on them because maybe they also don't know where they are going. You can see here also some shells. That's the symbol of the Camino. I'm not going to get into the reason why that's the symbol of the Camino. You can always Google if you are curious. I just wanted to mention because you see these shells everywhere. A fun fact about my most recent Camino in 2025. We arrived in Santiago during the European blackout, and it was very interesting and also challenging because there was very few restaurants to eat. It took a while to check in, and also we couldn't take a hot shower until 2 a.m. in the morning. But it was also a very unique experience because we had the opportunity to see the cathedral illuminated by generators in a very beautiful dark night. And that's an opportunity that most people won't ever have. But let's talk about some statistics of 2025. By September in 2025, over 513,000 people have done the Camino. Most people are from Spain, and then followed by the US with 8%, and then Italy, Germany, and Portugal. It's kind of makes sense to the majority of people be from Spain because that's where the Camino is. So it's very well known there and much more accessible for Spanish people as well. The most popular route in 2025 is the French Camino, followed by the Portuguese, and then the Portuguese coastal. And in fourth place, the English Camino. Now, the most popular starting points is Sarria with 32%, which, if you remember, is the last 115 kilometers of the French Camino, and the most popular one. In second place, Tui with 8%, Ferrol with 6%, and only then Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port with 4%, which is the whole French Camino, 780 kilometers. The majority of people do the Camino by foot. Very few people do it by bike, and even less people do it by horse or wheelchair. Unfortunately, if you remember the initial pictures from my presentation, the infrastructure is not great for a wheelchair, which makes it harder for people in a wheelchair to do the Camino, unfortunately. And how much does it cost? That will depend on where you start and how much comfort you are looking for. But some things you need to budget for are transportation, accommodations, and that can be a hostel. That is the most affordable option, starting sometimes in $10. You can also stay in a hotel or Airbnb around $70, but you can find actually a hotel for much less than that. And Parador. Parador is old monastery or castle that was converted to a hotel. That picture in the middle is one of the paradores that I stayed. I usually recommend that if you can, at least one night you stay at a parador because that's a very unique and special experience. For food, you have a few options. You can cook if you are in a hostel or Airbnb. You can eat the Pilgrim's menu, which is a three-course menu including a starter, the main course, a dessert, and a glass of wine that you will pay in between $12 to $21. And then you also have a lot of restaurants. In Santiago, you'll find all kinds of cuisines, by the way. You also need some gear from shoes, rain jacket, hiking pole, backpack, socks, and etc. And as miscellaneous, you might want to do some laundry. You may want to do some side trips. You can go to Finisterre once you arrive in Santiago. You also may want to visit the roof of the cathedral, which is a very nice little activity, but you need to book very ahead of time because they have very limited number of tickets. You may want to buy souvenirs, and you also may want to pay for a luggage delivery service. So that is a very affordable service that will take your bigger luggage from the hotel you are checking out in the morning to the hotel you are checking in at the end of the day, so that you don't need to carry your heavy backpack every day. Some people find that as cheating. If you agree with them, it's okay. You can carry your own whole backpack every day. But if you are like me and you are looking for a little bit more comfort, you can pay for this service. You pay daily, and it's a very small, affordable fee. And then you can carry only a small backpack every day with only what you need that day. Most of the people actually I've seen on my 3 Caminos are only carrying a small backpack. So I believe they are also using this service. And there's nothing wrong about that. When should you go? May, June, September, and October are the recommended months because they are not so busy and also not so hot or so cold. The Camino, though, is becoming more and more popular. So even during these times, it can be a little bit busy. So it's always recommended that you book your hotels ahead of time. I did my first Camino in September, the second in October, and the third in April. And I had a great experience the 3 times. I got a little bit rain in the 3 Caminos. The worst being the one I did in October, the coastal one in Portugal, which I think makes sense to get more rain in that region. And then in April, on my English Camino, I also got a little bit rain, but it was not so bad. July and August are the busiest months, so it's better to avoid. Not only because they are the busiest, but also because it's the hottest time. And it's not really fun to walk in that heat. November, December, January, and February are a little bit too cold, so most people prefer not to go during those months. But if that's the experience you are looking for, go for it. The Camino is considered to be safe, but it's always important to use your common sense when you travel. So, especially as a woman traveling alone, I always like to have other people on site, either ahead of me or behind me. So, in case of an emergency, I know there is somebody close enough to help. Also, I wouldn't take valuables, but if you do, make sure you safeguard them. And make sure that if you stay in a hostel, you keep your money and documents always with you. I didn't take a lot of cash because they accept credit card in most places there. And that makes it a little bit easier and safer to travel without large quantities of cash. What do I need to take? I'm not going to get here into a full packing list because that could be a whole video, but I'll just mention a few essentials for me, starting with shoes. I don't wear hiking shoes because I find them to be bulky and heavy. So I prefer to walk with my tennis shoes. But I also take hiking sandals. So I can take turns between my tennis shoes and my hiking sandals. I walk a couple of hours with tennis shoes and then a couple with my hiking sandals. That allows my feet to breathe and also reduces the chances of getting a blister, which is very common, especially among beginners. I also like to wear two socks, one of high absorption and another one compression socks. It usually helps me. And I also put Vaseline on my feet every morning and sometimes even at lunchtime. I know it sounds a little bit weird, and I was also skeptical before, but believe me, it works. So if you are practicing your walking, make sure that you already start using Vaseline so you can feel comfortable with it. For a hiking pole, I like to take only one because I like to have one hand empty for eating a snack, drinking water, taking picture, or whatever. I always like to take a couple of snacks of each so I can share with other people. Some snacks I buy locally. You can buy your snacks every night for the next day in each little town. And you can also take some things from your home country. But fruits, of course, I always buy fresh at the local town. You will need a hat, sunscreen, sunglasses, rain jacket. And if you are staying in a hostel, you will need a towel and a sleeping bag because all they will have is a bed and a mattress. One more thing that I'll mention is having an adapter for the plug because the outlet in Europe is different than the US. So that's very important too. Now, here are some food that you should try that are very typical from the Galician region. If you are a sweet tooth like myself, you must try the churros. They are really good. One of my favorite things of the Camino is the orange juice. Spain has the best oranges, so you have the best orange juices in your life doing the Camino. I usually stop at least 3 times to have an orange juice, and it's also a good opportunity to get a little stamp for your credential, which I will talk a little bit more in my next slide. The tortilla española is also pretty good. It's basically eggs and potato, kind of an omelette. Some places serve it cold, and I didn't really like cold, but when it's warm, it's pretty good. They also have the pan con tomate, which is basically shredded tomato with some olive oil and spices on a piece of toast. It's very simple, but it's very fresh and tasty. The torta de Santiago is an almond flour cake that is typical from that region. And it's not too sweet, very light, so it's a good little treat in the afternoon. And they also have pulpo. They have places there called pulperias where they specialize in pulpo, which is octopus. And that's probably the most popular dish in that region. I didn't try because I'm vegetarian, but if you eat meat, then you should try because they say it's very good. Now let's talk about the Compostela. The Compostela is a type of certificate of completion that you get. But in order to get the Compostela, you need to do a few things. The first one is you need to register at the Oficina del Peregrino website. You can do that before your trip or even during your trip. As long as you register before you go to the office to get your Compostela, you are good. You need also to get a Credencial del Peregrino, which is kind of a little passport that you need to get stamped during your journey. So if you are doing the last 100 kilometers, which is required to get the Compostela, you need to get 2 stamps a day. And you get these stamps at your hotel or hostel, at restaurants, when you stop to have an orange juice, because usually it's expected that you buy something at these places that you get a stamp. So it's a fun little way to bring a little memory from your trip. Some of the stamps are really cute. If you are doing by bike, you need to do at least 200 kilometers to get the Compostela. But if you are walking, 100 kilometers is enough. The Compostela is free, but you pay around 2 euros for the Credencial del Peregrino. There is also a certificate of distance, which is another document, but the difference is that that one shows how many kilometers you have walked. That one costs 3 euros, and you also get at the Oficina del Peregrino once you arrive in Santiago. You can get the day that you arrive or the next morning, whenever the line is shorter, because usually there is quite a line to get that Compostela, because a lot of people like to do it, even though some people don't do it. They just do the walk. So it's optional. Is it worth it to do the Camino? Absolutely. I won't say it will change your life, but what you get will depend on what you are looking for. There's a popular saying in the Camino, which is the Camino provides. And that means that this journey offers exactly what you need, physically, emotionally, or spiritually at the right moment. So that could be a snack offered by another pilgrim when you are hungry. It can be some words of encouragement when you are tired, a medication or a band-aid when you are in pain or have a blister, some water, or even a new friend. So be open-minded and be ready to give and receive, and you will have a great experience. Before we finish, I want to leave you with a thought to hopefully help you on this journey. And it is, trust the process. Do your part and let the universe do the rest, because it will rain and you can't control that, but you can take a rain jacket. So basically what that means is enjoy the process. Don't try to control everything. Um, Enjoy the journey, every step, every sun rising and sunset, every conversation with a stranger, every simple meal, the rain, everything, because this is such a short journey compared to your whole life. So don't let it pass by you without really living it. I want to thank you for watching until now and wish you a buen camino. Buen camino is another term you will need for your journey, because that's a term used by pilgrims when they pass other pilgrims. They usually say buen camino, and it's basically you are wishing each other a good walk, a good journey, a good camino. You will hear that a lot, and it's part of the Camino community. So I hope you enjoy your journey, and I wish you a buen camino. Thank you.